Great. Okay, so this is going to be a webinar on the journey of becoming a DevOps engineer. It's kind of a revised webinar, so hopefully you guys will find it valuable and interesting. And let's get started. So we are BCloud Ready. We are a 2015 founded startup based in Toronto. We do both AI and cloud products, lots of machine learning, and both lots of cloud agnostic solutions. We also do consulting services and training and placement. Today we'll also be talking about the training and placement quite a lot. And yeah, we've done DevOps corporate training for some big clients in the States, Bank of America, Allstate, Ericsson, Wells Fargo. It's pretty exciting because DevOps is really, it's just extremely hot in the market right now. Finding good DevOps people is something that companies really can't do. So we've had the opportunity to train some big names in the States, and a lot of the trainings we do for these people too will be at both at a very low level and a very high level, because they're upskilling their medium, their intermediate talent and their advanced talent towards DevOps. And they're trying to train people who are, absolutely fresh out of college into DevOps as well. So they're kind of both sides of the coin that way. Yep, my name is Nicholas Guthrie, a software developer here at BCloud Ready. Experience with cloud technologies, REST APIs, machine learning, mentor and training. I teach also a cohort here that we have for coming up DevOps engineers. And this is Chandan Kumar. He's often with us on these calls. He's a busy day, could not make it. He's got 15 years of experience. He is a senior DevOps consultant, works on multi-million dollar projects for some of the big names. Currently doing a project with the LCBO, actually doing cloud migration. So very exciting. And he's kind of our guiding light for the direction of to help people get into the DevOps field, and also our program and all these other good things. So it's pretty great. So our agenda today is just kind of, we're going to talk very quickly about the current state of DevOps, why DevOps is so valuable to companies, in case people don't know that, and how you can become part of it. And it's going to be pretty quick webinar, so we should be through pretty soon. And so, yeah, so basically just kind of this current state of DevOps. This is for the US, and it's about 95,000 US per year. This is kind of something, yeah, I just found this on PayScale. So this was and up in Canada, apparently it's better. I find that Nuevo, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, their salaries are always a bit higher than I expect from other places. So, but it looks like the median salary here is 125. So, it's pretty great. DevOps is, it's very lucrative. And so basically, what is DevOps? Why is it so important? So, this is going to be kind of just a really quick overview, but basically, the traditional way that software was created and systems were maintained was that people would be a lot of siloing. So you'd have your developers, on their side you'd have your operations people taking care of the servers and making sure the lights stay on fundamentally. And then you have your quality assurance people, your testers, making sure that everything was there was no bugs, it was running the way they wanted to, etc. And so this is kind of the traditional approach, and this is the modern approach, right? So you're going to basically have some person who can do a lot of go between all of those, because as the software development life cycle shortens and you want to get out higher quality code much faster, there's a lot more complexity involved. Before it was a lot more like a assembly line or something like that. You just start from A to B, from A to Z, I guess, to crank out your software. And these days, instead, it's much more of a quick feedback cycle. You want to work a lot closer with your clients. The demands and the context and the business logic is often changing on you as you're creating new features. Also, with a microservice architecture, there's a lot more complexity. You're no longer creating big monolithic pieces of software. You're often creating each component of the software will be isolated, and that software has to then each component of the software, which is called a microservice architecture, will have to talk to each other piece of it. And you have basically a role in the middle that's going to help with the QA stuff for CI/CD. And you're going to have somebody probably who has a developer experience who can sit with the software engineers and understand how pieces of the microarchitecture are supposed to talk to each other. And of course, is like heavily operation side, making sure that you're automating a lot of the operations. So if anybody has any questions about that, feel free to talk to me at the end. I'm happy to go much more in depth on any of those ideas. But basically, if you just kind of can memorize, the difference between this, if you're coming to DevOps and you're pretty new to it, if you memorize the difference between this, each person has a specialized role, or each team has a specialized role, and they're kind of like a unit that's separate, to then having an overlap between all of them, and then having basically a DevOps role, which will go between all of them and kind of try to make the process much, much more efficient for all of these different, all of these different aspects of software development. Great. So just kind of some quick stats on it, just to kind of give a very high level view of why it's so useful. It's just that traditional ops are 41% more time consuming overall. Traditional ops spend 25% more time putting out fires. Traditional ops, so DevOps spend 33% more time on infrastructure improvements, and they spend 60% less time on handling support cases. There we go. The chat's overlaying that. And yeah, and so this was from, I'm pretty sure, this data came from a study that was commissioned by Puppet. And Puppet is, they're a creator of DevOps tools, but they're of course just a very small piece of the picture. So there's some bias in this report, but also we can probably assume there is some truth in it. I didn't dig too deep into the methodology, but these are some kind of stats, some takeaways. And let's see. And then, yeah, 63% experience improvement in the quality of their software deployment, 63% release new software more frequently, 55% notice improved cooperation and collaboration, and 38% report a higher quality of code production. So all of these things add up to, a lot of money for companies, big dollars for companies. Great. So what types of projects will you be working on? So if you get into DevOps, you'll be doing, so one of the, the kind of main drivers for a while is cloud migration. People have on-premise servers. So, you'd actually buy the servers, and then run your applications, you're networking to them. That's costly in just a whole bunch of ways in comparison to something like AWS, Amazon. But what if you're a company that has a lot of infrastructure, like, hardware, servers, all these good things, and you have it on premise, you actually own them, but you want to move that into cloud? Well, that's a pretty big project in and of itself, right? You're going to need like potentially a lot of redundancy, like how much high availability do you want to have? How are you going to get it securely on there? How are you going to handle security from top to bottom? So this is a big DevOps thing. Disaster recovery is another part of it. So this is, I would say, not one of the main projects, but it is a project that comes up pretty often. Is that if, let's say, a company is a government contractor and they're doing something to do with health, or they're doing something to do with healthcare, one or the other, the services that they rely on, their network has to have a lot of failover protection, so that if something goes down, they're back on their feet almost instantaneously. So this is, again, this is network automation is kind of the big keys for DevOps. Cloud infrastructure optimization, you have a microservice architecture and it's going to be running in the cloud, and it's got all these different moving pieces. How are you going to make sure that you're optimized for cost, throughput, reliability, availability, all these good things, right? Application orchestration, this is just another idea as well, that you have these microservices and some of them are going to die, some of them are going to get overloaded, you're going to need to spin up more of them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is something that people will do with Kubernetes, for example, Docker Kubernetes, container orchestration, excuse me. And yeah, and then of course, you've got your continuous integration and deployment pipelines. And this basically just means that when people are creating software projects, there's a lot of extra steps that go into putting the code together and testing that the code works properly beyond just, writing the code. If you think, okay, I want to write some code to solve some problem, in a vacuum, it's just writing the code, it's just solving the problem, right? But if you're working with a large code base that's, obviously you didn't write, you have to integrate it smoothly into that code base to make sure everything works together properly, right? So there's a lot of steps here in that can be very laborious and tedious, and DevOps people will come along and automate a lot of those steps so that the software developers can just try to figure out writing the best code to solve the problem, and then all the extra steps of integrating it into the system will be taken care of for them, in an ideal sense. Yeah, so these are kind of some of your main project types. Key takeaway is that DevOps is very much growing with the cloud. So if you can kind of ask, at different points in time, different things are going to be very, very explosive and very, very hot. Everybody has been forced into a work from home position. Well, not everybody, but those of us in technology, those lucky people, we are forced into a work from home situation, which is pretty great in a lot of ways. But of course, as more and more companies go online, there's more tax on the structures that support all of the the things that operate over the internet, all the applications that will operate over the internet. So yeah, of course, everybody's going on cloud, and like we like to say, basically every company is becoming a technology company these days. So for example, like somebody like Domino's, they make pizza. So you think that they're a pizza company, but realistically, if you want to order it, they have their whole, front end, back end, all these servers, everything going on with their application, that you can order different pizza and get it delivered, and you can go through these different channels, and everything's going to have databases that are communicating and everything like that. So in a lot of ways, Domino's Pizza is also an IT company, right? And so when you think of it from that from that perspective, and the idea that a lot of people are afraid to kind of, people want to maximize the amount of time they're at home and minimize the amount of time they're going out, that this is just forcing everything more and more onto the cloud, more on the internet. And this is why DevOps is, it's just, yeah, well, we'll get to the workspace in a second. But anyways, so another thing I just want to mention quickly is that you can get a massive cost savings when you switch from, let's say, on premises to cloud infrastructure. So if you kind of look, obviously the savings is you're saving about 61%. So it can be huge, and this is just a 3-year cost breakdown. So this wouldn't even be, I don't think, a huge company either. But you will notice as well that the IT labor, if you look at kind of the last row, the IT labor is actually 3 times as much. So the nice thing is the DevOps people, and people who are capable, cloud engineers who are capable of doing cloud migrations, they can come in and save the company a lot of money, but they actually are doing, they're doing more labor in doing this switch over to save the company money. So it's kind of a win-win for both parties. The company saves a lot of money, but the DevOps people can also charge quite a lot for the project. So, win-win that way. So here are some of the key tools for DevOps, and I'm just going to go through these quickly for people who maybe are interested in learning DevOps. The key takeaway here is that you don't need to be amazing at any one of these things. You need to be able to put them all together, and you need to be able to have enough context, especially networking fundamentals are so big, so you understand how all the pieces kind of fit together and talk to each other. This is the really critical thing that makes DevOps, makes finding DevOps people hard, and it makes getting into DevOps difficult for people, because unlike, let's say, if you want to go be a developer, or let's say a Java developer, well, you would just work with Java all day long, in and out. You know what I mean? There's obviously some tools around that, but mostly you want to become master at Java, including your design patterns, moving your way up into architecture, writing really, really clean code, documentation, all these good things that make a person a good developer, right? To be a DevOps engineer, you need to have enough developer in you that you can basically write code that's a go-between. So I'm just going to kind of really highlight Python here. If you want to get in DevOps, having enough Python to go between all the other programs and tools you're going to be using is, I would say, critical. You'll get a huge ROI. So anyone who wants to do that, definitely learn. Just do, I would say, like 1 hacker rank per day of Python until you get through all the Python, and then you're just, you're good at Python at that point. Just want to kind of point that out. Thereafter, the thing you want to put in your resume is how you've built projects or worked on projects that combine many of the tools. Because the thing is, you don't need to go very deep on any of these things. You just need to put as many of them as you can together. So we've got a little demo today, which I will show you just kind of how to have basically AWS work with Python, work with Terraform, then it's going to work with GitHub to install an application. This is the kind of thing that you'll be doing a lot in DevOps, is basically just having tool A talk to tool B, talk to tool C, talk to tool D, and you have to know enough about them all to be able to configure them. And it's just a lot of troubleshooting, heaps and heaps and heaps of troubleshooting. And that's what people want to see if you're going to get into DevOps. Great. So I think we're going to come up to the demo here, and I'm just going to open up my screen, and then I will make sure that everybody can see it. Now I'm hoping people can see my AWS. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm hoping people can see my AWS login here. And I'm just going to go to EC2. If anybody wants to put in chat, if you've used AWS before, if this is, if this is something people are all comfortable with, if all seen, if just where I am doing EC2 on AWS or not. But anyways, EC2 is just, for people who don't know, it's basically just a computer that I can rent from Amazon. It's kind of one of the most basic functions that Amazon has is I basically just can get a computer. It will have an IP address, right? It's obviously in a data center somewhere on Amazon's cloud, and I can use Shell to go into that. So I can SSH into that, and I can basically run it like a computer. I don't have any of them going right now, and I don't have any spot requests going as either. So basically what a spot request is a spot request is like a market order. If anybody's done any trading or worked with financial systems, where basically you say, hey, I'm willing to pay this much for a computer. So basically if I rent a computer off AWS, depending on the size of it, how much storage it has, all these other things, there's going to be a cost associated with it. But if I want to get it really, really cheap, there's a way that I can say, hey, if there's extra storage or if there's extra capacity on AWS, and there almost always is, I would like to rent one of these computers at a very, very cheap price. So you can basically set the price you'd want to set it to. So this can kind of, get the wheels spinning about a lot of different possibilities there. Certain people are probably, I think in the past, they would have just been running, Bitcoin operations. The nice thing is it also doesn't matter how much you use the computer in terms of its its compute capacity. So, you could redline it the entire time, and they're just going to bill you by the hour. It's actually they bill you by the second, rounded to the minute. But yeah, that's so basically. Anyways, you can get very granular billing with AWS. I'm sure this is just a review for a lot of people here. And so if I want to create a new instance, I could go to launch instance, and I can create, this is, if I just want this is going to be the operating system. But I can choose some Mac ones, some Linux ones. I think there's a Windows one down here. So yeah, and you can just have, a computer and you're renting it from AWS, and that can be your web server, of course. And then you can do anything else you want with it as well. Great. So so what is DevOps going to do then? And I'm hoping everybody can see my screen here. So this is just some code, but basically, actually, let's switch back over to the there we go. We'll switch over here. And so this is what we're going to be doing today a little bit. So basically, I've got my computer. I've written some code in Python. That Python is then going to go to AWS. The AWS is going to go and it's going to check all the different regions for the best price. Basically, AWS has different regions. And so that is, there's a lot of different regions, but basically latency is a big one, and availability is another one. But basically, there's different regions around North America. And so I've written some code in Python that's going to use something called Boto3, which is a library in Python. It's a library that's written in Python to go to AWS. AWS will check the price of the servers, and then it's going to send that information and where to build it to Terraform. Terraform is another tool that Terraform basically is very good for provisioning resources on AWS. And then Terraform is then going to pull some code from GitHub. Not exactly, it's actually Python, but close enough. It's going to pull some code from GitHub, and it's going to install WordPress. So let's get the demo. Let's start that off here. And I'm going to, and then I'll run it, and it'll take a couple of minutes to run, and we'll come back to it. Just find where I did it in the WordPress test, I believe. And we will just start up our application here. I think it's already running. Let this get started, make sure it's, kind of on its way. Great. So yeah, we're queuing into Terraform now. We've created our spot request ID. So if we go back here, we can basically come over here and see spot requests. So great. So this is now, so obviously I didn't do this manually. I'm having Python go run a bunch of code that's then doing it through Terraform. So it's created a spot request, and now it's going to have created, it's going to create an instance. It's just waiting for the instance to start up, but this is the computer that is then going to correspond to that spot request. So this is just very, very, very cheap computer that I'm renting from AWS. And then we're just going to wait for it to start, and we'll continue on for the presentation for a bit. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to get it going. And then we can come back and we'll find out that it's going to go all the way through and install WordPress. And the question that we might ask ourselves is, why would we want to do something like this? Like, what's the point of this whole operation here? So the idea is that WordPress is, I'm just using WordPress as like just some application, like just an example application, basically. WordPress as a website, you would not want WordPress. You want WordPress to be on a server that's very stable. Spot requests, they can come up, they can come down. Not really important. But the important thing here is to understand is that all of this whole thing where I'm going to go check the best price, then I'm going to rent a computer at that price, then I'm going to go over to GitHub where I have, it's basically some code stored, and then I'm going to install that onto WordPress. This is what people do in DevOps. They're very good, and I'm a developing DevOps person, more of a software developer, but senior DevOps people are just excellent at making these systems talk to each other. It's kind of like, it's the idea of a plumber who can use all these systems together. So great, let's just, we'll keep going on here. So let's just see actually how we're doing for our demo. I think we're still waiting for our instance is still down, retrying. Okay, great. Yep, so we'll come back to the second. So how to become a DevOps engineer. Okay, so basically in the past, we've run a webinar a lot that teaches a lot of the skills that we have worked with students to think are very important for becoming a DevOps engineer. But we've come to a point that we've revised our methodology of what we think is the kind of almost the best way to get into DevOps. And so let me see if there's so great. So there's some key points to know in advance. So there are an abundance of DevOps jobs. I hope I've convinced you that with the statistics and just like, where the field is right now. It's difficult to find the people that can use all the required tools. And they're often looking for people with 7+ years of experience. So this can be tough, right? There are junior DevOps positions, but it's not easy to get those positions. no doubt. And so how would you get in the door if you want to transition to DevOps? Now, some people on the call today definitely are very experienced, and they can just transition over. They can say, I'm already a software developer for 5 years. I want to do DevOps. That will work. I'm a sysadmin and I'm going to learn some development. And as a key takeaway for anybody who's a sysadmin or like a Linux administrator, anyone who's worked in systems a lot but hasn't done any development, you need to do Python development. I am telling you this, just like take my word for it. You will not get hired otherwise. I have seen people who are incredibly highly certified, have so much background in sysops, or sysops, sysadmin, whatever it is, and they want to get in DevOps. You need to have a bare minimum of Python to do the development, or else you won't clear any interviews. I see interviews all the time, just as a clear takeaway, okay? But so anyways, that will work for those people. But for junior people who see that DevOps is really good, you want to get into this, and you really want to do that, it can be really hard to overcome kind of the entry. So this is kind of what we've so anyway, so three people again. So basically people who have programming skills but not much experience, possibly without a CS degree but a STEM background. So you did a bio background, but you really do want to get into coding. How are you going to do that, right? It's tough. People who are experienced and want to transition to DevOps, I mentioned before, and total beginners. So we kind of have created different approaches for all three types of people. So if you fit into one of those three categories, then kind of bear with me and ask me your questions, and hopefully you'll have an answer of how we think you should get into DevOps. Okay, so great. So we've created a Flex Dev Career Ignite program. And so what does that mean? So basically a Flex Dev is a person who's going to be working in DevOps and who will be working on contracts. So let's see, so this is a program, we've had some really good results for it. Here's our obligatory, review. So just kind of like go through those. I'm happy to show those longer if anybody would like to see them. But basically, I'm just going to talk about our program at this point. And so we've been doing this for so Chandon has been teaching for like 5 years, 10 years, I'm not even sure. He teaches and he does contracts at the same time. We've been doing this program specifically for about a year now, and we've got a lot of really good feedback and stuff with it. And we've kind of realized we've come to kind of a point where we think we can get the most benefit for both our company and for the people involved. So basically, we have an excess supply of DevOps contracts. We can really keep getting more, and we just need people. Like we just need people who can do the work and want to do the work. And maybe you want to get some experience on DevOps. Maybe you want to do a contract part-time because you're already a sysadmin or something. Maybe again, you came out of a STEM degree, so you have a very analytical mind, but getting into, let's say, like U of T computer science is so difficult. So maybe you just didn't quite get into that, but you're really good at chem and you want to do this. Okay, so I'm kind of, our program was designed with this kind of key concept in mind. We have much more work than we can do. Every day we are contacted with people saying, hey, I want help on this kind of DevOps job, this kind of DevOps job, this kind of DevOps job. And so anyways, so what we do is that in as much as we have students, all of our students who are good are now working with us on contracts. So as soon as you kind of get to a level in the program, and I wouldn't even say often you complete the program, but you get to a level that's maybe 60, 70% through our program, we'll just put you on a contract. And what we do is we do a guaranteed thing where somebody who's senior will guarantee to the client that the contract will get done. And then we will have junior people, knowing the junior people's strengths, because we've actually taught them, we've worked with them on the programs, they'll take care of, as much as they can. And the senior people will take care of, the rest. And we deliver really good value for the client. And also the people on the job, they actually get real world experience on like production code, and they get mentorship at the same time, and they get challenged to do the work. And obviously what we do is we have basically a training phase where you're just learning. Then we're going to give you some tests to see if you're ready, right? And then as soon as you're ready, we can put you on a contract. Like it's just like, so basically if you complete the program, and I would say you don't even need to complete the program, you need to get through 70% of the program, and you show us you can learn on your own, you have initiative, we'll give you a job. Like that's straight up. So I hope that's, I don't know if people, completely believe that, or if there's any confusion about that, but that's like our promise to you, that if you come to the program, you do well in the program, we'll give you a job. We're more so, a lot of places are just looking to teach people. We're more looking for people to work with. So there's kind of a big difference there. Okay, so yeah, we have extensive mentoring, and we want to make students independent, because if you're independent, then you can contribute and you can work with us, which is wonderful. Okay, great. So here's kind of the active learning path one. We call it active learning because all of the things before you come work with us. And of course, you're not in, so other programs as well, you'll be bound to work with that company. They'll say, okay, we'll train you, but you have to work with us for 2 years. You don't have to do that with us. If you get through the training, you know what I mean? Like we're good to work with. We work hard. We're really supportive. So we hope that at that point, you'll want to work with us. But if you get through the training and you get a better offer, of course, go do that. You know what I mean? What we're thinking is going to happen is there's going to be an intermediary period, where you have the skills, we know you can do the work, but you don't have enough experience yet, we'll help you get that experience working on full-time contracts with us, and of course you'll be paid for that, right? And then once you have enough experience, then you can go on and do something independently. So that's the way we've created the program. So basically, here's kind of like the stage one, and we're going to start you at the beginning with Python. Then we're going to do Linux. Then we're going to do Linux automation, then AWS projects. And so you're going to kind of really get the foundations here, ending up with Terraform. Terraform, a lot of the contracts we're seeing, they're using Terraform really extensively. So we want to make sure you have that. And at this point, you can basically start working on contracts or start applying on your own. And then the next thing, this is much more for the advanced people or people who want to go all the way to become like full-fledged DevOps engineers. You think this is going to be your career. This is something that you want to eventually be senior in. And this is, and if you do this, you can make 150 a year, like no problem, just absolutely no problem. So, and obviously, you need to have these skills, plus you need to have the experience. So you've got to put two things together. You can't just get the skills and expect 150, because until you can demonstrate that you can actually use these tools, then nobody cares, right? Of course. It's great. So you got your Grafana, so your monitoring, Ansible, Docker, Kubernetes, which is just like hot, 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 hot. Everything's Docker, Kubernetes right now. And then we'll do a modern tech stack, kind of combining a whole bunch of other things together. And the truth of the fact is, a lot of our students, by the time they've maybe got fundamental Docker, Kubernetes, we can already put them on projects. So you don't have to you don't have to go through everything here to get a job. Yep. These skills will also let you go for all these different jobs. Now, obviously, you've got to do some tweaking. You might have to pick up a little bit here and there, but these kind of really core fundamental things, plus some of the, buzzword hyper skills, will let you go after all of these jobs. We've got like system engineer, software engineer, developer, everything. You can do architecture. Now, obviously, these are varying levels of experience, but, yeah, aiming in that direction. The nice thing as well about the program is that you might be thinking to yourself, especially if you're kind of new or you want to transition to the field, you might be thinking, okay, I don't have a CS degree, so can I be a DevOps engineer? So let's say, you work with us for a while, you get experience, you have the skills. Will anybody hire you? And the answer is yes. It's actually one of the most, can I say this, flexible of all of the IT fields that we've seen, where you can have a CS degree or you cannot have a CS degree. This is kind of just highlighting, this is just a job, posting I was looking at. And as long as you kind of like really can demonstrate a track record of achieving, or of executing projects, then you're going to get in. And yeah, it's pretty amazing that way. So I just want to kind of dispel that doubt. And so we've had some really great results. So within three months of graduating our program, it's about 80% placement. Within 6, it's 91, and all of our students are placed within a year. As well, I should say that right now it's probably higher. Like in the last, I haven't updated these stats with all the recent things we've done lately, but because we've got so many contracts, I would say that it's probably like something closer to like everyone who gets to the place that they're almost completed the program, not even completed the program, has been, so it's been like 100% of those people have been hired within 3 months. And this is probably over the last 3 months. Like all of our students who can demonstrate any kind of ability have already got hired. So that's pretty great. So basically, the way it goes is you join the program. We do the intensive mentoring stuff. We will give you a job, or we'll help you land a job that's between 40 and 60. You'll continue doing your support, and then you can go for, eventually one day you go for senior DevOps positions if you have all the skills, right? You can't do that in a year. Nobody is going to say that in a year. But for the advanced people who are on the call, and I know there's a bunch of advanced people on here who want to just go from whatever you're doing at 80 and you want to try to get DevOps because that's the next step for you. We're very, very happy to help you get those like higher end skills, like basically, which is primarily Docker, Kubernetes, and maybe Istio right now, like a service mesh. Okay, great. And then, yep, active learning phase, internship phase, and placement phase. This is kind of just the order we go in. So this is kind of the important part for anybody who's asking about this, and if it's got a question coming in here, amazing. So yeah, I will get to that question at the end. It's a great question. But so for program A, the mentorship and contract work, the important part here is there's going to be a technical screening and interview to start off with. That is really important. Before, we had the program opened up to everybody, and there's a lot of variance in the type of people who come in. So we thought there would be kind of self-selection to begin with, where people would be like, oh, well, I've tried X and Y and Z, and so therefore I know this is maybe something for me, maybe not something for me. And I think it's great for certain people to come try it out, even if they don't know. But now we really want to find people that we can help develop into DevOps engineers and who can work with us on contracts. So now we have implemented a technical screening and an interview. So basically what the technical screen is going to do is we're going to give you some project. It's going to be Python. It's going to be, working with a couple tools. It's going to be very guided. You'll just follow basically the guide we give you. It's not going to be easy. It can't be easy, but it's going to be also kind of fairly straightforward. And once you do that, we're also going to give you an interview. And then if you pass that, then you're welcome to the program. So it basically takes about 3 months part-time to finish. Some people take longer. One of our one of our students came into the program. He finished the entire program in about a week and a half. The entire program, a week and a half. And at basically the 2.5 week mark, we hired him, right? So and he had a biochem degree, had never done any CS in school, but he was a very avid coder outside of it. I think he really wanted to go in CS, and maybe he just didn't get in for whatever reason. And so he was incredible. He was absolutely incredible. We don't expect that from most people, but it can be done incredibly quickly. And we are, to be clear, looking for people who already can basically code in Python, have some kind of experience. You don't have to necessarily code in Python, but have experience and basically know to a certain extent that you can already achieve goals, right? Like, this program really is looking for people that we can help you work and help you become a DevOps engineer, not people who just want to just learn, right? It's yeah. So please give that a think. Yeah, so the learning path is going to cover the most in-demand technologies. We're not just saying that. We literally work on contracts all the time in the field. We know what they are. We know how to use them in the way that is most in demand right now. Because obviously, you can learn lots of things about Docker Kubernetes, but if you don't know what the business use case is for it, then it's still worthless knowledge, right? You're going to be actually being paid to work on these, right? So, okay, great. Daily scrums and Q&A sessions. That's probably one of the best learning values of the whole thing, is because, let's be honest, you can learn anything for free on YouTube. But if you work with people who have a Q&A session with you every day to try to keep you motivated, keep you accountable, get you unstuck when you're stuck, this is like the live feedback cycle in the program that's most valuable. Okay, great. The internships are as soon as students are ready. There's resume coaching and mock interviews. So, once you've worked with us for a little while, or if you already have experience, we'll help you with the resume coaching and the mock interview, so you can go get placed somewhere else. And we're very happy that way. And then placement upon finishing the program. And again, this is, I want to say that placement on finished program, it's often much before that, because we can see that you have some skills and a contract's going to come up for that. Like for right now, some of the big banks, we have a recruiter he really, really needs Python people, right? So if you notice, if you go way back here, you'll see that the Python LS is the first thing that you learn. Now, we're not going to send you out on a job for one of the big banks unless you have some other stuff on top of it. But if you've learned Linux, you've learned IT foundations with us, you're learning AWS, and each day you're doing more and more and more Python, and we can see that you're getting pretty decent at Python, at that point we can totally place you. Great. So, okay. And so this is program B, and this is training and mentorship. This is open for absolutely anyone. So like I said before, the 3 types of people, the advanced people, like I'm talking about, they can go where they want to. They can figure out how they want to work with us or not to move there. For the people who are kind of very beginner but have technical ability, this is your program. Program A is for you. If you already know you can do Python, you can do math, you have an analytical mind, please talk to me, and we can get you work. Right? Okay. And then this is the open to anyone. This is, if you come from a totally different field, you did something completely unrelated, you did a humanities degree or not, whatever it happens to be, and you really are going to, like, to be totally honest, you're going to just need more time, and you're going to need more help, and things will have to go slower. And so this takes about 6 months. You should budget at least 6 months to do this, and give as many hours as you can to it. Yeah, and so basically there's no interview for this, but this is the 2 kind of parts of the program. In this one, because you don't have the previous skills, we're not expecting to put you on a contract ASAP. We're expecting that we're going to train you for as long as you're interested in being trained, right? And obviously our training can get people onto contracts. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea there. Again, placement on completion. If you do well in it, of course, we're going to place you. We're just looking for people as much as we can. Afterwards, resume building, targeted job search, interview preparation, retraining, and subject work. Great. So basically kind of here, the program components again are self-paced videos, Slack channel support. That's like chat for developers if you haven't used it before. We used to do a live classroom series. We may or may not do that in the future, but trust me, there's lots to keep you busy. One-on-one mentorship, that we do all the time. Weekly, I'll spend 30 minutes, an hour with somebody because they're prepping for an interview, so we could just make sure that's, looking good. Internship projects, of course. So it's all project-based learning. If you're in the learning period, we're going to give you lots of projects, but they'll be unpaid. And if you're in if you're working with us on contracts, those are paid contracts. Great. And then placement services as well. So the fee process is, it's $1,000 per month for 3 months. This is for the advanced DevOps program costs. And by advanced, I just mean that you already have a programming language under your belt. You can go into HackerRank and you can do medium level problems comfortably. you've done a bunch of these tools, maybe you've done your AWS certification. These are people who've already been in the game for a little bit and they've kind of tested themselves and they know they're capable of something, right? So this is it's $1,000 per month. Also, if you get this done fast, then you only have to pay $1,000 a month, right? So for this guy again who got it done in a week and a half, he paid $1,000 and then he got hired, right? So that is there, and this is the open program, the beginner one. This is for it's $1,000 for 6 months of training, and yeah, and that's it. We don't kick people out after that amount of time. If you take 8 months, that's completely fine. Doesn't matter, but that's what the cost is. If you do complete the program, of course we're going to place you. We're happy to place people. We do a first week money back guarantee. So if you want to come out, try the program, come talk to us. It's the Q&A sessions for the beginner portion of it are from 10 to 11. So the program timing is going to be best for people who can, be part of the program from 10 to 11 every day. EST for anybody who's not in, I guess, EST. So yeah, great. And so now we've got Q&A and the registration page is here. Yeah, and so I'm getting a question here. Can people from outside US/Canada join the program? Yeah, 100%. 100%. And on top of that, I'll tell you that if you do well in the program, we'll give you a contract and you'll be paid, in Canadian dollars, basically. So I don't know if that would be advantageous from wherever you live to be paid in Canadian dollars, and I guess in a lot of cases it would be. So yeah, that could happen as well. We have a student, I think we have 2 students in India right now, but it's really, yeah, it's no problem that way. What else? Yeah, contracting does end up being a very global affair. Great. Yeah, any more questions from people? We've got a good group in here today, so I imagine some people have some question. Could you please put the link in the chat? Yes, I can definitely put the link in the chat. Let's just share just go back to sharing this screen. Sorry, just give me 1 second to find the link. Oh. Okay, great. Yeah, that's the link in the chat. Just getting a couple more questions here, which is excellent. Done. Will you decide who can participate in the advanced course, right? Yeah, so basically, Hassan, we will be giving out the interview. That's so basically it's a technical screening. If you haven't done one of those before, it's basically a take-home assignment. We're going to say, hey, please do these questions. We're going to do our best to make sure that they're not something you can easily Google. You actually have to think about it and demonstrate some ability. And then I think there'll be 2 parts. One will be probably a Python programming challenge, just to make sure that, that's something you can program to a certain extent. We might make it language agnostic if enough people talk to us, but truly in DevOps, you want Python. So it's probably going to be done in Python. And the second part will be more of like a follow this tutorial kind of idea. So we're going to give you something that we want, some little project that we want done. And then we're just going to ask you to, work off our instructions to get that done. And it's basically a test to see how much you can operate independently. And because that's what we're really looking for, right? Anybody who can operate independently and can deliver workable solutions to us, we can train you up with the skills to go with that kind of your innate ability to get things done on your own, and then we can give you a position in DevOps. Yeah, that's it. So that's how we decide who will get in. But I will be definitely on the selection panel for people who get in, don't get in. And I've already created the version 1 of the interview, but I just got to create version 2, or the final version, I guess. And then anyone can register to the advanced course, and then you filter. Then yeah, from a sales perspective, you can register right now. The thing is that you'll either you'll either be in the 3-month program or the 6-month program. What I would do is I would invite you to just contact me beforehand and just say like, hey, I would like to join the advanced one. I have this skill, I have that skill, and I'll type my email into chat here. Say, hey, I have this skill, I have that skill, I've built these projects in this language, I've done this over here, maybe here's my GitHub. Do you think I'm going to be able to get into the advanced program? And honestly, it doesn't take that much, but at the same time, I've met a lot of people who want to do DevOps who have never coded at all before in their life. And that's, maybe they can do it. In some cases they can, and maybe they can't, right? And I would say that's probably the majority of cases, that if you've never coded before, done anything analytical before, finding out whether you can or cannot do it is going to be, like a very real part of the journey for you. So yeah. So, but if you can do it, of course, either of our programs will definitely get you to the level that you can work on contracts ASAP. It's funny, actually. It's a really kind of amazing position that our company's in right now, where we have good connections, we have a good network, and we actually have to turn down a lot of work. And this is why we restructured our program, because we're mostly looking for people who can help us work on projects, as opposed to really teaching that much. Okay, great. And Slack channel, you said, right? How to register? Oh yeah, once you're in the program, we'll just invite you to the Slack channel. I hope that's what you meant by that, but it's really good questions. I do appreciate this. Yeah, and I know one of the things that's really important for people is, you look at maybe you look at a job review. So let's say this, I'm going to say this is going to account for 80% of the people. I'm not talking to people right now who already have a lot of experience in the field, maybe in something else like SysOps, and then you want to become DevOps. This doesn't really apply to you, but because you've already gotten in the field. But a lot of people want to get into tech, right? And they haven't done a tech job before. And maybe you've come out of university again with a STEM degree and you can code some, but you don't have that. Because in a lot of cases, people who have STEM degrees, they have a perfectly analytical mind and they want to do something in technology. They don't want to go into like sciences. But it can be extremely, extremely competitive to get in. So, we know there's a lot of people out there like that. So anyways, this advice is basically you look there and you think, okay, I don't have anything on my resume except for maybe a STEM degree or whatever else. You know what I mean? I can code. I've done some coding. How am I going to get into this? Well, the way that you get into this is you just actually have the ability to solve problems, and then you communicate that to employers. So if you get on a contract and you say, I work for this company, and and you can be incredibly specific about the problems you solved, what tools you did it to do it, and exactly how, then you're in the field. That's it. That is just the bar. If you can jump over that bar, you're in the field. So yeah, I think that's the really huge value to the program, is that it's not like, I'll tell everyone to be honest as well. If you go and you take maybe a boot camp for $17,000 is going to give you enough project experience. But if you go take MOOCs and things like that, because you're going to be building, like Hello World projects, that won't actually excite an employer versus anyone who's actually worked on a real project. You know what I mean? It's just going to be like binary. The other person gets a job. So this is the real value of the project. Okay, here on the course page, they say $600, but I got as $1,000. Yeah, Hassan, thank you for checking that. I will confirm that. Actually, I can confirm that now. Right, that needs to be updated. So that's yeah, why is it 500? So I was told that was updated yesterday. You know what? I'll give you this little tip. I'm gonna update this after to $1,000 a month, and I'm gonna set it up so that there's the 2 payment plans. Sorry, the person who did the admin work was supposed to do this yesterday, so I guess I didn't. I'm basically going to change it, and it's going to say $1,000 per month. And it's going to be for 6 months if you are not enrolled in the advanced program, and it's going to be for 3 months if you're enrolled in the advanced program. And again, advanced just means that you can code a little bit and you've done some work before. and I don't mean professional work. I mean, you've done an AWS certificate, you've done, some Python projects that are a little bit complicated, you've done some MOOCs, but not only have you done the MOOCs, you've also applied the learning to your own project. You just demonstrate to me somehow that you can do things, which will be, again, this interview screening. So this is going to be the advanced one. I'm going to go fix this. So the takeaway here is that if you do want to enroll right now, it's $500. And I know that people try to do this thing where it's like, oh, it's usually 1,000, it's 500. I'm actually not doing that. This is actually a mistake. Like, our admin yesterday was supposed to change this to $1,000. So if you do slide in the door right now, you will get it for $5,000. I am going to change it right after this. That's kind of hilarious. Sound like I'm using one of those internet marketing kind of schemes to trick people in, but I really am not. This is just literally a mistake. In fact, I could probably do it now. But yeah. So anyways, if there's any more questions about it, please feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we'll shut it down. We'll probably be doing this webinar every couple weeks. And so, if you need some time to think about it or whatever, you can get in touch with me. You've got my email. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm wondering if anybody in here wants to tell me if they think that they could do the advanced program. If you just want to chat to me, if you're thinking that you could do that, like, you've coded in Python a little bit or a different language, you have, maybe AWS, especially if you know network fundamentals. So it's kind of rare to find a person who can develop a little bit, in whatever language, and also maybe not rare, the upper regions, but often people who are learning and they're self-taught, they can either develop or they can either develop or they know networking stuff. Like, they've gone the sysops admin route. They want to be an administrator. They really understand networking, or they can do some development. It's kind of hard to find people who know both. So if you do know both, that's a huge benefit. Of course, if you can just do one or the other, we can teach you the other. That being said, though, usually people who know a lot of networking, they do struggle to learn Python, whereas people who knew some development stuff, they can have that mind that can do Python, then you usually pick up the networking easier. Okay, great. So I got a bunch more questions here, so I'm gonna answer these live. Answer live. Yep. Okay, so Hassan, you're thinking you could do it. Great. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm getting another question. Is it $500 if we register today? Yeah, that seems fair. That seems fair. The admin is not going to be happy if you guys get in for 500, but if you do it right now, you're allowed to. Yeah, okay, let me see. Somebody, you posted your LinkedIn here. Could you chat that please to me? I can't seem to copy it out of, oh, maybe I can. I don't know if I'm hoping you guys can just see the screen with the program on it. I'm just looking at your LinkedIn here. Developer. Yep, this looks great. You could definitely do it. So you're doing iPhone? So iOS development. Oh, wow. Very long time. That's great. Yeah, you would probably do great in the program. So you're already in CI/CD. You actually have a massive amount of experience. So I'm actually very curious about, yeah, I would love to have a conversation about, is it that you're coming to North America? I'm curious, very interesting. But yeah, I'd be absolutely happy to work with you. Great. So yeah, so right now it is 500 for the program. I'm going to change it right now and send our admin a message. Yeah, is there any questions about it? How to register? Yeah, that was the key one. I would say the best thing to do is please just send me an email and say, so basically, if it's 6 months for everybody, that's the basic level. If you think you can do the advanced program, like Hassan, I truly believe you could. Please send me an email and we'll just send you the interview, and then we'll just make sure that you can do the interview. We'll do the technical screening. We'll have an interview with you, and then you'll be welcome to the program. Yeah, and we'll get you another link. And Hassan, if you confirm with me today that I know that it's you. If you do talk to me soon, I will argue so that it can just still be $500 a month. Anybody who wants to register the beginner one, it can be 500 for today, but I am going to change it after that. Yeah, is there any last questions? Let me see about our, let me see how I'm going to go back to our demo because that's completed. And I just want to make sure that the demo is up. Yeah, just I don't know if anybody is still interested in the demo, but I'll show you kind of quickly. Let's go back to Zoom. And then we will share screen. Right. So I hope you can just see my browse here. So basically, if we went to, I'll go back into AWS. So basically, we now have a new instance running. Again, this is just a computer that I've rented from AWS. It corresponds to this spot instance. And you'll notice that the IP address is, let's go to the instance. And the, let's see, where's the public IP address? Public, yeah, I believe this is the one that it's going to be using here. So great. So if we go back over to our WordPress and we notice this is the IP address here, right? IP address. And if we go to WordPress there, this is just your WordPress setup. So this shows the applications running. This is kind of your starting off place where you can install it. The important thing that kind of to note here is that this created the instance on the cheapest region in North America. And then it created the instance, it got the spot instance, it got the IP address, this through Terraform, it went to GitHub, and then it installed the script to install WordPress, and now it's running so that I can configure WordPress. It's going to show a one-click deployment for an application. These are the kind of things that, are obviously all the content would be different. Like you won't be deploying WordPress, you'd be probably deploying whatever Docker containers the company is actually working with, but this is an idea of how you would want to automate a process for deploying something. So the nice thing is that if I wanted 100 servers all running WordPress, web servers running WordPress with databases, because it actually I believe configures the database as well to work with it, then I would just have to change one variable, change it from 1 to 100, and it would boot up 100 copies of this. And obviously instead of having to manually deploy that, that's a pretty great thing to do. So cool. I hope that was exciting for everybody, and I hope it gave everyone something to think about a way that you can get in the field. And yeah, thanks so much for coming out and spending some time with us. Again, you have my email. Please get in touch with me, and I hope to hear from you soon.